Good morning. I'm Steve Wolf, Wholesale Marketing Associate at Sprague.
And I'm Joel Williams, Director of Refined Product Sales here at Sprague.
Welcome to Sprague's Refined Products Review, where we discuss what's moving the market and giving you insight into what we see every day. I'm hearing from customers that they are fielding lots of calls from homeowners and consumers that are worried. Any chance you can address these worries and touch on supplies and prices?
People are worried. Are they going to have oil? And if they have it, how much is it going to cost? So I think the first thing we'll take a look here is at the supply situation, because that's, I think, what most people are concerned primarily about is will there be oil, especially when they hear the fact that 20% of the world's oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. So it's obviously a very critical pathway for oil to get to market. What we're going to do here to help kind of illustrate this is take a look at a couple of charts. The source for these charts is, I guess I'd say, the entire internet. These numbers change all the time, but they're all directionally correct. So it kind of should give us a decent idea. So with this chart, what you're going to see is world oil production. This is in percentages. You could also do it in barrels per day because the world does consume about 100 million barrels a day. So it makes for a nice sort of correlation there. What this chart will show you pretty clearly is that, North America is the largest producer of crude oil in the world. Just behind that is the Middle East. And both those about 30%. Then you have the former Soviet Union, primarily Russia and some of the states around there, which is about 13%. Asia Pacific with 9%, South America and Central America with 8%, and then some lesser players like Africa and Europe with 7% and 4%. So that's where the oil is coming from throughout the entire world. The next big question becomes, where is it getting used? And the reason that we keep stating that North America is in a pretty good position is that we have done a pretty good job of making ourselves energy independent. And with that, you'll see we're producing 30% of the world's oil and consuming 24%. So, North America and the U.S. are net exporters of oil. Next, you'll see the Middle East, which also is producing almost 30%, but they're only consuming only about 8%. So they clearly are the biggest exporter throughout the world. And this is obviously the challenge that we're facing today with this, 20% of the world's oil comes through the Middle East and is not making it to the market like it normally is. Then you have the former Soviet Union with 13%, consuming only 5%. So again, another net exporter. And then what you're going to see really on the next part of the list is the huge, counterbalance, which is Asia, Asia Pacific. Largely, you're talking India, China, Japan, Australia. Overall producing only 9% of the oil in the world, yet consuming 36% of it. So that's a huge deficit there. Central and South America kind of nicely balanced at that 8. Africa again 7% production, 4% consumption. So a little bit of an exporter, but not a major player. And then Europe being the other one that's majorly short, producing only 4%, the least amount of oil in the world, yet consuming 15%, which is, up there for the third most consumption in the world.
So if the U.S. has plenty of oil, why are the prices so high?
The biggest deficits of oil are in Asia and in Europe. And obviously the U.S. is a net exporter, but we don't have enough to meet their needs. And, obviously, when you look at the west coast of the U.S., Asia is just an ocean away. When you look at the east coast, Europe is just an ocean away. And so what we're seeing is that because oil is sort of a freely traded world commodity, is that they are drawing some of the oil from the east and west coast. And that is driving prices up. Now, again, we're able to pay the prices here and keep the oil here. So that's the good news about supply. The tough news is that it's going to cost more to keep it here. So with them drawing some of that oil away, obviously it's raised prices. The obvious option if that was ever drawing too much away would be an export ban. But it's very early to be talking about that. But clearly this push towards energy independence that we've seen over the last 10 or 15 years has positioned, North America to manage this situation pretty well.
And why are distillate fuels like heating oil, diesel, and jet fuel rising as well?
We've seen oil prices up and we've seen gas and distillate prices up. Quite honestly, distillates are outpacing the rest of them, particularly in the Northeast. And I think, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is we just saw that the U.S. produces a lot of crude and enough for it to consume what it produces. The challenge is we produce a lot of light sweet crude, which is excellent for making gasoline. But we also complement that with some heavy sour crude, which is really great at making distillates. And that heavy sour crude is a lot of the crude that's been taken off the market. So because of that, refineries are not yielding the amount of distillates. Also, one thing you see is refineries are meant to run very efficiently and very stably. And so they all run off these things called crude slates, where you take a couple of different crudes, you mix them together, and you optimize your refinery to run that mix of input to get the most output. As we start to mess with those crude slates and the crudes that are available, these refiners are running sort of less efficiently. And the last thing I would say about the distillates, particularly in the Northeast, is Europe being short again. Europe consumes quite a bit of jet fuel and quite a bit of diesel, and they will continue to pull some of the distillates from this market again, making us see sort of an outsized increase in our distillates compared to the other products.
Well, thanks for all that info, Joel. We hear the administration is doing some things to keep prices down. Can you walk us through some of those?
The administration is clearly trying to create more supply. Have these strategic petroleum releases, both in the U.S. and internationally. Again, you add supply to the market, you theoretically can bring prices down. You have the easing of sanctions on Russia. Russia's obviously been producing oil for a while now, but a lot of that has been getting, those sales have been getting tempered by the different sanctions put on. And although we had some open sales and a lot of sort of discrete sales coming into China and India, the loosening of these sanctions is allowing Russia to go ahead and sell more oil openly to mainly China and India at this point. Obviously, Europe's got a challenge, when it comes to buying Russian oil, where it's, do you really want to feed the money into the same war that you're sort of fighting against? So there's a lot of challenges around that, but Russia does provide some relief. You're talking about the suspension of the gas tax. Obviously, that's a tough one because whenever you reduce that tax, you're going to have to make up that revenue somewhere else. It's not like you're able to just stop spending. So, I don't know how much momentum we'll get behind that. And then you're seeing insurance for the ships, but without naval escorts, insurance to the strait's one thing, but to risk the crew and your ship and losing that even with insurance without a naval escort's kind of tough. So overall, you're seeing the administration pulling all the levers it can. I think the reality is that there's just not enough out there. I mean, if this continues to go at this rate, that's a lot of oil to make up for.
Any final words in these times of uncertainty?
At this point, there is enough oil out there. It is expensive. There will be middays. There will be challenges with tightness, but overall, we will persevere as an industry, just as we always have. So again, don't overextend yourself. Buy what you can sell what you can buy, and we'll be there for you.
Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Joel.
Thank you for having me on again, Steve.
And if you haven't seen it yet, check out our latest special feature, a panel discussion with Sprague's Women in Leadership, available now on our YouTube channel.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks again for joining us this week. We'll be back next Wednesday with another Refined Products Review. Refine your insight.
Fuel your success.
So with that, we'll go to our great producer, Robert, who will put up the first chart for me. So with that, Robert, we'll jump to the next slide. Or you can cancel the charts at that point. And then, okay.
So,
sorry, that was going to be the next question for you anyway.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the snap.
Yep.
You're having way too
Yep.
much fun.
All right.
I can't wait to see that.